I'm Tom Osman, and this is Whatever Comes Next, the podcast where I explore the world of underground and independent music making. And on today's episode, I am talking with Jack, Jill, Kevin, and Adam, who together are Stress Spells, who will be releasing their debut record, Hearts Never Tire, on Fuzz Records on the 6th of February. And as I mentioned to the band during this interview, the music on Hearts Never Tire is kind of anxiety-inducing. This is a sort of a post-hardcore world. Great album. Lovely people from my time spent talking with them. So, yeah, you can get the album on vinyl from Fuzz Records. You can go to Bandcamp as well. I'll put all links in the description. You can get it digitally as well. And I think that's about it. I'm going to play the opening track from the album at the end of this interview with a little clip coming right up. And you can follow the band on Instagram. You can follow me on various platforms at Tom Osman Sounds. You can go to my website, tomosmansounds.com, to check out my music. So, with all that being said, Jack, Jill, Adam, Kevin, who are Stress Spells, take it away. I want nothing more than to get rid of this pain!
I'm Jill.
I'm Kevin.
Jack.
I'm Adam.
Okay, nice to meet you all. So, from what I understand, it's Jack and Jill, you formed the band.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did people ever make jokes about that? Like the whole Jack and Jill
I
thing?
think we beat them to the punch so that it kind of like lessened the blow.
Okay, yeah, that's good thinking. And are you all based in New Jersey, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I think of New Jersey, I think of Ice-T and Gregory Jacobson, and I think maybe Greg Kubacki from Car Bombs from New Jersey. As I'm obviously totally ignorant to New Jersey, tell me what New Jersey's got going for it.
It's got everything. It's got some like very urban areas, but it also has some really beautiful forests and woodsy areas and farm areas. It's really got a pretty good gamut of terrains to explore.
The beach, obviously.
It's got beaches.
All four of us kind of live in different parts of the state.
Yeah.
So like these two kind of live in a city. I kind of live in a suburb, and Adam kind of lives in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so how far back do you all go? Did you all know each other before? I mean, I know that you were each in the band at different times, but did you all know each other before that?
I think mostly, yeah. Adam and I have known each other for like over a decade. We've been playing music together, and like not together, but our bands have been playing together for.
Yeah, Jill's old current band now, or her
Other
other
band,
that she sings in. My other band played their first show.
Oh
yeah, at the Meat Locker. So we've known each other for a while.
Yeah,
and we also have a interesting age span too.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm old.
Now be careful, because if you're younger than me, that's going to be a problem for my ego.
Doubtful.
I mean, how many years do we have?
It's like 20.
It's like 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intergenerational band.
Yeah, I'm the baby of the band, probably the youngest member. So,
But also our leader.
Yeah.
so when I was like 8th grade, starting high school, I would go and see Adam and Jill's bands play around like the local DIY spots that I had just found out about. And, they were people that I always looked up to, which was like, I think it adds to like the kind of chemistry that we have like as a band, because I'm like informed by the people that I'm playing music with about how I want to play music. So it's kind of intuitive for us to kind of like get on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a nice chemistry.
It's true.
Yeah.
It comes across on the record, on the forthcoming record, Hearts Never Tire, which I was going to say, I really enjoy it. It does make me feel anxious, and it gives me a sense of foreboding. And I was thinking, I imagine that anxiety and foreboding went into making it. So maybe just from sort of a conceptual point of view, maybe you can tell me about the anxiety and the foreboding that went into making the album.
I don't know. I think just like early on in like discovering this more like angular outsider, if you want to call it, kind of music with like bands like Drive Like Jehu and Fugazi that we all like that building and like driving tension and kind of just like off kilter vibe is something that I think we all just respond to musically. I think we kind of just we lean towards making all of our songs like, not to say we're like King Crimson or Frank Zappa or anything, but like we like if we can make a hardcore song as weird as possible, like we've done our job.
Yeah.
So as far as like in a literal sense, the recording process of the actual album was very lengthy. I think it was something I have never, me personally, it was a process that I've never done before, you know, recording everything independently, kind of self-editing as it goes along. So I don't know if that was what you meant in a literal sense, but I can definitely speak to the fact that the actual recording process was definitely anxiety inducing for me as the guy who had to do vocals 100 times to try and get them right and try and like make sure all my guitar parts matched up with what everyone else was doing.
I think bass and drums were recorded like over 2 years ago.
January 2 years ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I've thought about those performances.
Yeah. And like going back even farther, you were what, like 2021 when we started the band, and you're now 26. So I feel like that's also just like we have all collectively like been through a lot of change in that time, and like it's been like a big growing process. So like yeah, I think that definitely adds to it. Just like you know, a lot of time has gone by and like a lot of big things have happened.
Yeah.
It's also, one of our friends has jokingly coined us as working class screamo. So I think another like part of that is like we are doing this all on our own and like on our own schedules.
Yeah.
Which can, I think add to the like the time it takes to actually see something through. And we all like Jill said, like it just in the world, the past 5 years have been really crazy, but in our lives, we've all been through a lot of like extreme changes and things. So, you know, working jobs, going through life, and trying to record like a full length album on your own time. It's a lot easier said than done.
Jack and I worked together, and most of the vocals were recorded at our job after work, like in this back room area. So we would like, you know, be done with work and we do a couple songs and you know, set up and like, okay, let's you know, then we'll like,
did your coworkers like hear you guys?
Yeah. You know, Jack, all you hear is just screaming in the back.
Yeah, with no context. Just me like, all right, this is another fucking shitty day.
Yeah.
I go scream in the storage closet.
And it's like the same 10 seconds of screaming over and over again, the same takes.
Yeah.
Right. There's several different things that came up there that I wanted to follow up on. But first of all, just an incidental comment. Based on what you said about how old Jack is, I think I've aged Adam. And so I'll I'm not going to say it, but just incidentally, I think you might be like 2 years older than me. So we're pretty close. All right. So but I don't think you're old. I'm not accepting that you're old, but I guess it's all relative.
I forgot that Jack is 25 or 26. I thought I'm 44. So just, or no, I'm going to be 44 in like 5 days.
Yeah.
I'm older than you.
Oh!
Yeah, so there's 10 years. There's 10 years between you and me, and then about 10 years between me and Jack. Yeah. So yeah, intergenerational screamo.
So another funny thing is that when I was listening to the album and I was thinking about possible influences, there's this funny thing that there were like Drive Like Jehu, I totally hear. I was thinking like At the Drive-In, that like
hell yeah.
Fugazi, of course. But there was funny thing, like from time to time, like on Familiar Shapes, you'd have this interesting rhythmic stuff that made me think of Tool a little bit. And then I thought, I wonder, I was like, I won't mention King Crimson because that'll be too obscure. So I'll ask them about Tool. And then you brought up King Crimson. So
Oh yeah.
I'm wondering, like, in terms of that kind of, like you brought up the sort of angular music, which I get. Is there anything in terms of influences that might surprise people that aren't really from the sort of hardcore, post-hardcore realms?
I mean, probably, yeah.
Yeah, we all like a lot of different music
Yeah.
and stuff.
I do like a lot of prog. I don't think I'm a good enough musician to like have that actually come across, but
that's not true. Don't be silly.
yeah. But like I love Yes, you know, stuff like that. You know, even like Steely Dan, I'm into, you know.
Yeah.
Outside of like the realm of like hardcore or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, like I got into screamo and stuff like underground hardcore, post-hardcore music like pretty late. Like, you know, by that I mean like 5 or 6 years ago. But I think between us all, like we all listen to that stuff, but we supplement it with like so many other things. Like Adam listens to a lot of like Billy Woods and like, you know, other hip hop artists like that. And I mean, I like only listen to the same 5 bands probably. Like just like Sonic Youth is like my favorite band.
I think we're all collectively kind of like 90s indie rock nerds. So I feel like with a lot of melodies and maybe some of the technical aspects, it can generally come from a lot softer, that like quieter places that people maybe wouldn't expect, I would say.
Yeah.
Like for one instance, like I think a lot of the kind of arpeggiating and kind of repetitive mathy, like noodly stuff, a lot of people like to say like, oh, you guys remind me of like Dillinger or like Converge, but one of like the bigger records that, you know, influenced some of the riffs that I wrote on this song would probably be the first Farrakhay record, like Discord, Q Not You, like bands like that. Like,
oh yeah.
on the indie rock side of things and like the capital M like mathcore thing.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. It's another thing that sort of I wonder about and amuses me from my own experience. I was in a band years ago, and I liked to try to throw in some weird time signatures. And I remember one time I was trying to write a song, and I think it was going to have one bit that was going to be in 5/8, then one in 6/8, and then one in 7/8. And I brought it to the drummer, and the drummer instantly was like, "Fuck off! What is this bullshit? You're not doing that." So I noticed that you do have some kind of unusual time signatures and rhythms going on. I wonder, does that come from anyone in particular in the band, or is there any particular kind of origin or like where that element comes from, or you're just all into that?
Just all of us.
Yeah, we're all freaks.
I mean,
Yeah.
whenever these two come in with riffs, it's usually like, wait, that's not that. Wait, how do I do this?
It takes us a bit to figure out. Like, I don't even think we know necessarily like what time signatures we are in, but I think we'd kind of just intuitively figure it out.
I don't know, because you were just trying to discredit yourself a second ago, but I feel like you specifically and Kev like are very adept at like just locking into whatever.
Sure.
We do understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's just like shellac. Like that's pretty much how I learned how to play drums. Like Todd Trainer, basically.
Yeah. It's not as much of a like a music theory thing as more so of just like kind of letting go and just feeling it and falling into the thing, and it just works well. You know, I think we've all been in bands where it's like you work on a part for like days, like trying to get it to come together.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it's not really happening. Whereas like we have a thing where like a riff, it's like, it doesn't take long for it to kind of come together and everybody to get their head around it. And it's very heartwarming.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, wow, it just comes together and it's like, wow.
I think we don't put boundaries on ourselves. And I think that helps. Like, we would never be the kind of band to like record to a click track.
Yeah. We're a little more free spirited.
We do things a little differently around here.
Could you imagine, you know, from the perspective of the music being very energized and I would say anxiety inducing, could you imagine Stress Spells having a ballad?
Oh yeah.
I mean, we already almost.
Yeah. I feel like the song that I wrote, the new song, is kind of ballad-esque.
Pretty too. We've got some pretty licks, you know.
Yeah.
Around.
Yeah, I felt like on the album, like there are moments where you rein things in and there's contrast there, but it always feels like a bit of a Trojan horse of just like, oh, okay, it's calmed down. Like, hang on a minute, hang on a minute. Oh no, I'm going over a cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like what I was saying before about like the kind of things that we're driven to musically, like those are the things that like we respond to and we like doing that. But like Jill said, it's like we wouldn't not do like a straight 4/4 part if it sounded good. Like it's not about it's not it's not like explicitly about making it as complicated as we can. Like we like doing that, but if someone came with like a straightforward part or like something pretty and you know soft, like we wouldn't like ditch that idea because it's not like in our
lexicon
that we've like created.
Yeah.
So if I understand this correctly, all of you sing in the band, is that right?
At some point or another, pretty much.
Yeah.
I kind of do the least. I don't have a mic on stage. But.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
you do stand up and yell at some points. Yeah.
I stand up and look into the crowd's eyes and scream at them.
So kind of like as a hype man.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I was thinking from the perspective of how energized and energizing the music is, when you're going to be playing on stage, do you have any kind of pre-show rituals that you go through to get yourselves amped up for playing, or you can just kind of flip a switch and get into it?
Yeah.
We're pretty good at flipping the switch.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, I don't know if anyone agrees, but getting good at like setting up your gear and stuff is like a good ritual.
Yeah.
Because then you can just sit on stage and like, you know, not be afraid to like play to a crowd. I don't know. That's just my thing. Is like, I just like being efficient and getting up and getting off and being professional and making sure the show runs well. I think people respond to that more than anything.
Yeah.
I think I'm definitely the kind of performer who like the performance anxiety feeds into me in like a good way. Like it's a good energy. So like sometimes when a show is very chaotic, I'm like, I have no time to prepare. Like it almost benefits me in a way. Like I have played a show where I was at a camping trip and drove 2 hours into the city just to play a show and like basically rolled up right before we were supposed to play. And like, that's fine with me. Like not something I would want to do all the time, but like, I think definitely sometimes the chaos is like, you know, you finally like get everything set up and you're like, okay, like take one breath and like, we're just going to kind of launch into it.
I agree with the nerve. I still get nervous before every time I play. And it's not like a debilitating nervousness. It's just like, oh boy. But it's like my favorite thing is to play the songs and stuff and jump around a little bit.
Do you have any rituals?
No, I mean, I had like a lot of stupid shit that I would like, you know, try to eat or like drink a certain way before I went on. But really, like once you're screaming at the top of your lungs, there's not a whole lot that I've been able to learn how to do to like regulate it. So I just give it my best. I would say I'm more leaning towards what Jill's answer was. Like, say we're on a 5-band bill and we're last. I just want to play so bad. Like it's not out of like disrespect to the bands that we're playing with. It's just I enjoy watching bands play, but when we're playing a show, it's a little different because I just like, I want to get up there and have it done.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that when I get to a show and the show starts, that's me getting ready. Like just mentally being like, all right, like let's go. And then when I'm on stage by that time, it's a relief that we're playing.
Yeah. It's like being a dog on a leash watching other dogs at the dog park.
Yeah.
And so in terms of the instruments that you're playing, if I've got this right from the press release, Adam, you actually started out playing drums in the band before Kevin was in the band, but you hadn't played drums in a band before, but I'm sure you must have played drums before. So how did you end up being the drummer?
I actually played drums in a band that like we switched on and off, like guitar and drums. So that was my most experience. But I grew up like always playing a little bit, but my muscle like going is like never really got like super great, like with doing fast like punk beats and stuff. but I know what they should be like. So like I think I did okay for the shows, but when we went to record, it was just sad. Like I couldn't do it.
I thought it was good.
I disagree.
But I was like, we gotta get Kevin here.
I will say that like I wouldn't have joined the band if it weren't for Adam's drum parts, honestly. Yeah, I mean like most of the stuff on the record, I would say 90% comes from like the ideas Adam put down before I joined.
No, it couldn't be
I
90.
think
It's
you
maybe
are.
like
I would
20,
s-
maybe 20%.
Well, maybe
There's like
80%.
there's like two parts.
But
yeah, but you do them right.
it was honestly I kind of felt like blessed because like this musician that I have liked for a while, who I've never seen play drums, is like writing these insane drum parts that like personally I would never think of. So it's like that creates a lot of creativity of like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be, and like this is the stuff that I have the tools to like put on it or like add to it, in other words. The spice
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was always really drawn to Adam's drumming for that reason. And you guys as a three piece was like awesome. I saw we played together with one of my bands like a few times actually.
Our very first shows with Kev's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was also in another three piece at the time. But I don't know, the three piece with y'all, it was just like I was really into this band Shotmaker at the time, which is like a band of children from the 90s, like three kids that somehow went to every state in the United States. But it just reminded me a lot of like that kind of like pureness, maybe not sonically like musically similar to Shotmaker, but like I don't know.
Energy wise.
Yeah.
Now, you've alluded to the jobs that you've got outside of making music and about the length of time that it took to make the forthcoming album. And one of the things I'm interested in, or like a big part of what I'm interested in on this podcast, is exploring the practical side of making music and being in bands. So tell me a bit about the sort of the practicalities behind making this music. Like, I'm guessing that being in stress spells and the other bands that you're in doesn't particularly pay the bills.
No.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Well, not yet, at least.
Yeah.
That's the spirit.
I consider it lucky if we are like on the road for a few days and can use the money that we've made to like buy us a nice dinner, you know?
That's kind of like really all we can ask for at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
as much as, it's nice to save money and sleep on a floor, someone's friend's floor. Like, if we have if our fund is doing well and we get asked to do like a really cool one-off, like we did in Canada for New Friends Fest, it's nice to have the ability just to have like board paid for and like gas and transportation. And that's kind of really all you can ask for at the end of the day, especially like in North America, like
Oh,
just
yeah.
where you basically have to drive 6 hours to everywhere,
Yeah.
I mean, we cycle through like we design all our own merch for the most part. So since the beginning of the band, that was just something that we did just because that's what you're supposed to do. But pretty much any money that we make as a band goes back into the band. So that's kind of why we're able to do these like little one-off runs or like, recording independently. I don't know if I'm sure it weighed at some point in the decision making, but basically that was money that we were able to save, so that we could go, in the spring. Now we're going to be doing a tour. So the money that we would have spent at a studio, we can now spend on, renting a van and being able to actually take our own gear.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that was like a conscious decision. We were just kind of like, I want Adam to record this, and it was a lot of fun. So
yeah, it just worked out that way, I guess. I think basically the answer is we sacrifice a lot of our own money and time just to like make this happen, which
Sure.
I think is a part of what makes the band work so well, is that everyone is kind of on the same level of like being able to put in the time, throw in money here and there when we need to, and the rest kind of works itself out, which I think we're in a lucky position in that way.
And do you feel like sort of how do I want to phrase this? This is usually the part of the interviews where I start going into like a Marxist thing, even when I'm not actually a Marxist, but I'm like, someone's making money out of here. So I'm just like, do you feel that things somehow should be different, or they could be different in terms of the possibility of financial remuneration for underground independent bands? Or is this just sort of the nature of being part of the underground?
It would be really nice if where the States and North America treated musicians like they're treated in certain places in Europe, or other places where musicians are sponsored, and they have like a little bit of a kickback because they are promoting like local culture and arts. That would be nice. I don't know how I would ever feel about like personally making like having financial success as a musician, or like doing it as like a full-time job, because it feels more power to anyone that can do that. It feels like a little icky to me, because like this is how I separate myself from like my work self, like my work persona, the person that I have to be every day. It's like I get to go then on the weekends or when we have practice and just like be a gremlin on stage and like completely lose myself. And there's something cathartic about that I feel like I wouldn't necessarily have if this was also a job.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest successes and an absolute dream come true for me is our album is being released by Fuzz Records, and they're just releasing this record vinyl for us. And I've been doing bands since like 1999, and I've always self-released stuff, or me and my friends had a little label and we'd release stuff. But having someone front all those costs and stuff is literally like, I can't believe it. It's like so cool.
Yeah. And just
like,
kind of doing it out of trust.
Yeah. It's like we're not really like,
we didn't really understand that part of it.
I mean, it's trust and just like love of the culture.
Yeah.
I think it's the most respectful thing. Like, I've talked to Josh. I had some anxious phone calls with him where I was like, are you sure like this is what you want to do? And he's like, I wouldn't do this if I didn't trust you guys and like what you were doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. And it's yes, like 100%. I think artists should receive a little bit more compensation than they do. Basically streaming is just stolen from pretty much every artist, no matter how big or small you are. I think I can see the world kind of like turning maybe 1 degree, and people are starting to kind of try to take more control over that aspect of things, especially like when you look at where the money's going. But again with Jill, it really is like, it is, we work so that we can do this. At least that's how I feel at the end of the day. Like, I don't know, some jobs are cool, some jobs can be interesting. At the end of the day, like, we're all being exploited, and we're barely like getting by with the amount of like work that we put in. So I just do that so that I can pay my bills and hopefully like get to go on a weekender with my friends and play some music. That's really all I can ask for. I think having, if I played a bad show and that came out of my paycheck, I think that would be a bad precedent.
Get demerits, like you're in James Brown's band. Yeah.
Demerits.
I think also on like a grander scale, like even like outside of like our band and success, like I want every band, like especially people that like I'm friends with and that I support, to like find whatever success like means to them. But also like I worry that like it's getting like the sort of like demarcation is getting like more and more narrow as to like what you can do to find that. Like I just like don't want people and musicians to like sacrifice like their integrity or like their creative spirit or anything like that to have to fit into this box so that they can be successful at what they do.
And get on that Warp Tour.
Yeah. And that's also why I like streaming and like giant, festivals and reunion shows and stuff like that very much makes me nervous because I'm like, I don't want this to be like the only pathway to like being discovered or like having any sort of success creatively, financially, anything like that.
And sticking with the topic of streaming, so I noticed on the band's Bandcamp page, you've got a link to various different streaming services and places to pre-order the album, and there's like Apple Music and there's Deezer. But I noticed conspicuous in their absence, there was no Spotify. So is that very much a conscious decision?
That was a request on our part. Yeah.
I mean, there's everyone likes to get on the internet and talk a big game and say, you're doing this, but you're not doing this. How come you're doing this and not that? And again, going back to what I was saying about where we stand just as people in the world in like this capitalist system, we have so little that we have control of. I kind of go back and forth on, concepts like boycotting and things like that, because I think it can get into a realm of like, well, you're expecting people who don't really have much control over what they can consume for that price, and I think that comes from a very privileged judging point. But I think just as a band and the ethos that we operate on about just kind of doing it for the love of doing it, that was one decision that we could make that could, I'm not saying it's we're taking money out of CEOs' pockets, but if we could, possibly influence one of our peers or just show people like you can still do this and not be on Spotify, that's totally within the realm of possibility.
I also think that like, even I could be wrong, but like I don't think that like our hardcore fans, however few there are, like are really looking to listen to us on Spotify. I mean, most of the people that I know for a fact like listen to our band have either asked me for bounces or paid for the Bandcamp link. I don't know if it's just like our sphere or whatever, but like it is seriously like none of the people that I know are like looking for the next new release on Spotify anyway. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like, I was talking with my sister about this the other week, and I forget exactly how she phrased it, but she had a good comment where she basically said, if you open up a computer, you're essentially paying some rich prick.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, like you kind of got to pick your battles. Like for me personally, and this is partly because I used to work in book selling, I fucking hate Amazon with a burning passion. And it's like,
Absolutely.
You're in good company.
100%. Yeah.
if I even like accidentally click a link that like links to Amazon, like you fucker, you fucking got me. Like I'm on the webpage. You have to scrub my search history now to get rid of that. But it's like
when I see that Prime, it's like fuck you.
Yeah. but at the same time, like I've got friends who buy stuff from Amazon. I'm not gonna give them a hard time for it.
Sure.
But it's just like, you just kind of got to pick your battles, because if you try and pick a battle with everyone, you're gonna get beaten down. So I've got stuff on Spotify. The podcast is on Spotify, but it's like I tend not to promote that. I try and promote other platforms more.
Sure.
And then maybe at some point I'll take a stand, but I kind of feel like I'm in such a tiny, tiny position that me taking a stand doesn't really have any impact. But emotionally, I appreciate it when I see bands that are
I think podcasts are also in a bit less danger. Not that, it's not bad, but, you don't have to compete with AI yet. There's not AI burying your podcast necessarily in the search.
Yeah.
I mean, just go back to the minor threat line. At least I'm trying. What the fuck have you done? And that's what I would say to anyone who wanted to ask us about what we're trying to do.
It's a thing that especially as you get older, and you have to figure out how you can resist. And I always think of it like on a guitar, the pot is it's a variable resistor. And we are variable resistors where, depending on our situation, we have to figure out the way that we're comfortable with resisting all the bullshit that, you don't agree with. And, you know, sometimes it's like, okay, I canceled my Spotify subscription and I'm using a different plan. And it's like, hell yeah, brother. That's you know, that's doing your part the way you can, or not shopping certain places. Or doing banner drops or throwing bricks through windows.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
figure out the way that you can resist.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing, is to always have that.
Yeah, because you'll burn yourself out if you try and do it all.
Yeah, you can't sink a whaler. It's you're gonna either get hurt or arrested,
Yeah.
but we got to figure out how to sink that whaler. Yeah, the whaling ship. We got to sink it.
Yeah, no, that makes a whole lot of sense. On a more positive, life-affirming note, I wanted to ask you all. So, in days gone by, I used to ask people what music it was that made them pick up an instrument, but I've come across a different line of questioning, which I thought is a bit more interesting, which is if you can think of a musical moment that changed your lives, whether it was seeing a band play a particular show or hearing a record for the first time, does anything spring to mind as I've sprung it on you to think of in the moment?
I was just thinking about this because in 2001, I saw this band called Diastomata, and they're opening up for Lois Mafia and Brendan Canty. You know, Brendan, of course, from Fugazi. And so this band from DC opened called Diastomata, and they're a two-piece, guitar and drums. And the woman playing guitar and singing, it was kind of like maybe like Farraquet, or like, but I had never heard of them at that point, or like American football stuff. But again, I hadn't heard them yet. It was like really kind of weird guitar stuff. And seeing that, like, I was like, I didn't know you could do that on a guitar. And it kind of like blew my mind. And that was the only thing they ever did. They broke up, and the lady like is a environmentalist, and she did this song that's on this like Bandcamp like compilation of like other environmental things, but that's the only thing I could find. And it's like, man, this one thing I saw like was so amazing. I was like, and that was all they did. But it changed you know, how I look at music and how I approach the guitar. But yeah, Diastomata rules. I have a Google Drive link if anybody wants it. Because the music is not like on any of the streaming services or Bandcamp or anything. There was a 7-inch and a CD, and I have 2 of the 7-inch and the CD. But it's
Lost to time.
Fine, yeah. But yeah, that was so good. But you know, that person, it was my thing. You know, it was like a thing I saw and it affected me like crazy. But you know, it's you just get lucky.
That's true.
Yeah. So I think we all like have little things like that, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sorry, I gotta embarrass you, Adam. There's one thing that I always like return to in my mind, where I was like just about finishing up high school, and I was in like a really like extreme phase in my listening, you know, of music, where I was just like hardcore, grindcore, black metal only.
Yeah.
I basically pretended that any other style of music didn't exist.
So like only tremolo picking and blast beats.
Yeah,
like you have
pretty
to do
much.
the most all the time.
Pretty much. Yeah. But my shitty black metal band just like by accident ended up on this show with one of Adam's previous bands, Permanent Tension. And I really did not fuck with the concept of screamo, I guess, if you want to call it that. I think mostly just due to how, you know, my associations with like mallcore shit and like the crying on the floor, all that like performative nonsense. But like, I don't know, imagine me like just like this hard kid, like only listening to like Wolves in the Throne Room and like Wormrot, like Siege, whatever, and then seeing this band Permanent Tension and just like watching the drummer, watching the bass player locked in, watching
Chris.
Adam do these like
Damn.
pulling off these riffs in like a heavier style of music that you never would anticipate. And I kind of just like turned around and looked at my friends and I was like, this is what I need to be doing. And you know, pretty soon after that, like the band that I was in, I was like, this is just too restrictive for me. And then, you know, I think that was a big turning point in like my perspective of like how I wanted to do music and like the kind of the level of like tightness and creativity that I want to achieve in a band. So I have to attribute that to this guy.
Yeah, I guess I had to think really hard about this, but early memories, it's tough because like I think I spent a lot of time because I started a punk band when I was in high school, and on the Jersey Shore, there's this thing called Shore Style, which is like been pretty.
Not the TV show, but like the actual Jersey Shore.
Yeah, like
location.
which is where I grew up. Me and Jill both grew up around there. But so starting a punk band or starting a hardcore band when you're like a queer kid and friends with a bunch of nerds was kind of like bad because like you kind of really couldn't get any emotion unless you were like a tough guy or whatever. But that aside, I think when I went to college and I moved out, I started like a few emo bands and I started getting into a lot of the stuff that, you know, we're influenced by now. And my drummer of this one band that I was in, his high school teacher was his high school history teacher was, I forget his name, but he was the guitarist of Have a Nice Life. And after like a year or two of us playing, we actually got an opportunity to do like a secret gig with them when they got back together in a basement. And I think the week that it happened, my grandmother passed away. And you know, being a selfish kid, you're like, this is I gotta play with Have a Nice Life. This can't happen now. But the day of the show, we buried my grandmother, and I got a ride to Connecticut from New Jersey, which took about 6 hours. And from Connecticut, we drove up to Massachusetts where the show was, which was another 2 hours in traffic. And we showed up and right in time for the first band, and we played, and Have a Nice Life went on, which is a very sad band to listen to when your grandma just passed away. And I think for about like 30 minutes after that set, I was just like crying in my car, like being like, wow, that all just really happened in one day. And I kind of felt something similar when we got the opportunity to play with Dillinger Escape Plan. Like that was truly like probably just as big of an honor as the previous incident was, like, and that was just like really honestly by chance to be real. But yeah, that was like a year ago now. So
Yeah, I think I have like a big background in like music and performing because just like I have like parents who are like into like punk music, so like I learned about this stuff like very early, you know, like I learned about like the New York Dolls way earlier than I should have, and stuff like that kind of influenced me. And I did a lot of like theater and stuff as a kid because my mom was involved in like community theater. So like music and performance have like always just kind of been like part of me and part of like what I do. And I've never really like shied away from it. And like being in like the theater world and like going to local punk shows as like a youngin. I think it was just like always something that I wanted to do, but like I wasn't good at guitar and like I could sing, but it was very difficult to find anyone that wanted to do it with me at the time. And so like as soon as I went away to college and I moved to North Jersey where we're all kind of situated now, that was like very eminent on my mind, and like started singing in a band. And it was like obviously very fun at first, but I think what really like changed me and made me realize like, oh, this is like something that like I need to be doing or I'm gonna stop breathing, is just like having young kids, kind of like how Jack feels about Adam, like having young kids come up to me, like even
And Jill.
Yes, thank you. Like, and just say like, oh, like, you know, your music means so much to me, or like you made me want to start playing music. Like we have a band that we play with pretty frequently who like I spoke to their guitar player one day before a show, and she was like, you know, like I used to go see my band Ides play at our local punk venue, you know, when she was like a teenager, and like now we are playing together, and like that like really blew my mind and made me feel a lot of feelings. So I was just like, holy crap, like I'm not like purposely trying to influence anyone's life, but like just the fact that like we're all doing this together. And like, you know, I think like when you're a musician, like if you make yourself like approachable, and like it just kind of like happens that like people will be influenced by you and will also like want to pick up on that energy. You know,
Connections are
yeah.
absolutely like really what it really makes it like feel so good.
Yeah. And just like the collective energy of like being at a live show, like especially like a DIY show where like everyone's just doing it for the love of it and like setting it up so that there's something going on and that like the energy kind of keeps flowing. I think that really just like kind of blew my mind when I started to like experience that.
Yeah, great examples. All right, I'm definitely going to keep asking people this question because that worked out.
Good. It's a good question.
So thinking about the release of the album then, so it's going to be out on the 6th of February, and people can obviously get it from Bandcamp. You've got links to various different streaming services. Can they get it from the label directly? I'm not sure. I think maybe I did see actually they've got, the label's got its own website with the vinyl. What formats will it actually be released on?
Just digital and vinyl.
Nice.
Yeah.
And in terms of like, I mean, I guess when you're doing shows, you'll have copies as well. So do you have shows lined up? And in terms of people keeping track of what's going on with shows released, etc., where is the best place for people to go to?
It's not announced yet, but we will be doing a little stint down the East Coast. So we're going to be hitting some of the southern states along the East Coast and then working our way back up. We're going to be doing our official release show at Cinco de Mayo in New Brunswick on March 1st. If you're in the area, you can come see us there. We'll also be hitting...
And get some of the best Mexican food you'll ever have, probably.
Shout out Cinco. And we're going to be hitting Philly, Providence at AS220, and Brooklyn as well. Yeah, that's all going to be following the release of the album later on in February.
Nice.
And generally, just like our Instagram is just a good way.
Yeah.
There's so many flyers and everything on there.
Yeah, that's a good place to kind of headquarters for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I ask people that question, I try and ask it in a kind of ambiguous way where I don't like say, what social media platform do you use? But it's just like if that's what it is, that's what it is.
No, we're not on X right now, unfortunately.
Me neither. I don't even call it that. Just like the platform formerly known as Twitter. But the thing is, it wasn't even going back to the whole thing about picking your battles. It was doing nothing for me anyway. So I was like, this is a very easy decision to make.
Yeah.
It's also like I've seen bands like get their flowers and get their clout from Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's like usually not people that I want to surround myself with. I won't name names.
Indeed. All right. Well, Jack, Adam, Jill, Kevin, lovely to meet you all. Thank you for your time. Yeah. Lovely to listen to your music. And I wish you well for the release and for your shows. And until we meet again.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for having us.
So much.
Bye.
I want nothing more than to be rid of this man.